You guys are doing great. I'm having a lot of fun too. So let's get right into session number 3. Session number 3 is an interesting one because this is where we're going to start to talk about point of view. You as the storyteller, you as the artist, have a point of view, what we call a POV. We'll get more into that in a moment. But a point of view is how you see your story, how you see what your take is on it, what your way of seeing something and presenting it. Oftentimes in animation, a point of view for a storyboard artist might be the character's point of view. And so we might lower the camera, if say the character's a mouse or something like that, lower the camera really low so we can see the point of view of the character and feel those emotions of being in the story from a lower camera point. So we will talk about camera angles, up shots, down shots, and things like this as we talk about point of view. But mostly, it's a very subjective element. This is going to be you guys, as artists, as creatives, choosing how you want to tell your story. And that's really the fun of it, isn't it? Is that we all have our own point of view, our own way of telling a story. That's what makes you unique. So let's get into talking about how we create our own point of view and how we tell our stories through our concept drawings. All right. Hey, everybody. And yes, session 3, here we go. But in between our intro and the last session, did you stretch a little bit? And I don't just mean stretching our back and stuff, but as artists, we're drawing all the time. We're working with a stylus or a pencil or a brush. Got to really relax and stretch those fingers, right? I do a lot of different stretches because that's important. We don't want our hands to cramp up, and we don't want carpal tunnel syndrome, right? Okay, so now we're going to talk about point of view. So this is an interesting one because we're talking about storytelling and your point of view, the camera's point of view. It could be two different things or it could be the same thing. When we're doing storyboards, oftentimes, and like we talked about, you want your camera low oftentimes to create the point of view of, say, the mouse in Ratatouille, right? Remy. And if you look at that film, it's a great example of how point of view really helped the storytelling in all the visual storytelling that they had in that movie. But we do that in any kind of illustration we do, whether it be comic books, comic strips. We're always choosing a point of view that helps to express what we want to tell in our story. So pretend that you're the camera operator when you're doing your drawing or your illustration or storyboard, and you're on a movie set. You can pick the point of view that tells the story best. Sometimes it's a lower point of view where you're looking up at a character. Sometimes you're higher. Sometimes you're straight on. Sometimes you're close. Sometimes you're far away, right? So we have all those options that we can think about. That point of view, or oftentimes it's called POV, that you choose can add to the emotion of the story you are telling. So in those two cases we just saw where we're looking up at the character, this little mouse who's a superhero, when you see it in the frame, he's high in the frame. It's a really low perspective, right, where we're looking up. And so what that does is it makes him feel grand or high and mighty and aloof and strong and all that kind of stuff. That's how that translates emotionally to us as a viewer. Or the other one where we're higher and we're looking down at him makes him feel less powerful and maybe weak, or it's staging so that we want to see the top of the might have a purpose of showing the top of the roof so we can see a bad guy sneaking up, or a Godzilla kind of character coming up behind him, or King Kong, whatever the story is. And so that viewpoint, that point of view, can really help to create an emotion or give us some details in the storytelling that's essential for that moment, okay? So that is in our wheelhouse of tools. So here's another example, and I've chosen something that is, yes, you could say very much like Ratatouille, but it's a mouse that breaks into a family's kitchen and frantically makes a cake before he gets caught. So, okay, yeah, mouse in a kitchen cooking, or in this case, baking. So here's like a first point of view. This could be an establishing shot if we were wider, where there was more information in the frame. We're farther out, we'd see more of the kitchen. But we could be at this eye level. See how we're not really seeing inside of the bowl? We're not seeing much of the countertop here. It's really kind of straight on. The horizon line is like right there in the middle. Not the most dynamic, not the best design, but it's informational at the very least. A lot of comedy plays out in flat, middle of the road kind of horizon lines, but this flat graphic is a great way to showcase a lot of comedy things, because comedy tends to be physical and you just want the information in a very simple way. So this is kind of middle of the road, standard, a little boring. Now let's bring our camera up a little bit and turn it in a little bit. So now we're a little askew, and now we got these nice lines going across the frame to a horizon line that it's up a little bit higher here. And so we're getting these nice dynamics here. We're now seeing the curvature of the bowl, so we're seeing inside of the bowl, and it breaks up the frame nicely. We're showcasing more of a 3/4 view of the main character. And so this might be nice for acting or dialogue a little bit, but we're getting a lot more of the countertop too, which is great also. So this is a good, more interesting design. Here's another one. And it all depends on the story. I'm not saying that there's a better or a best, because it just depends on what you're trying, your viewpoint and your point of view that you're trying to get across. But now we're lower. This would be a good viewpoint for a character looking up at him. Say a cat came into the kitchen or something like that, right? And so we're lower. So we're seeing the bottom of the bowl and the cabinets and the soap that he's on. If we were wider, we'd see more of the bottom of the countertop too. It's good for, frantic stirring for the character. Does not showcase his face very well, but definitely good for a low angle look at our character. Oh, now this is a fun one, right? So we're in the bowl looking out at him. So it's almost like the camera is right there with whatever he's making. This is a great view to show scale, because now look at how big that spoon looks. It's in the foreground. We're breaking up the frame in an interesting way with the dynamic of the bowl. We're also showcasing him. We're really front on him. This is a great view for dialogue with your character. Or say, what if you wanted that cat that we talked about coming up behind him in the background here, and we just see this face rising up. Great way to showcase that, because it's a surprise. So there's a lot of fun that comes from this in the bowl kind of a shot, but should only be used in the best possible way. Depends on what you're going for, right? Or like this one, bird's eye view. This point of view, our camera is way up high, like a bird, looking down, straight down. Not a great showcase for the mouse. We're not going to get a lot of dialogue out of him. It's a great showcase, though, in the composition if your story is to showcase in this moment what he's making. So this would be a good angle to be at if it is about what he's making. Maybe there's a color change that happens because he added some ingredients, or maybe he sprinkled in some salt and pepper and we see it go into that, and then he starts stirring frantically. So if it's about what he's making, great point of view for that. So all these options, like I'm saying, are up to you. We have these options available to us. We're the camera person in this case. So if you're a storyboard artist or want to be that, that's where you think about point of view. But it helps bring life to any of our stories. Now we're into assignment 3. Okay, so this is where I want you guys to put into action your point of view thinking. We've conjured up some ideas through my examples. Here's an example for you of a story concept. I'm going to give it to you, and I want you to run with it. Draw it 3 different ways, because that's how we learn, is through trying different variations, not just one idea. I want you to try 3 rough ideas right now. A little girl looks up at a tree, at a bird up on a tree that's sitting in a branch that is happily singing. So I want you to kind of think about what's that point of view? What would make that interesting? Are we looking over the bird down to the girl, showcasing her on the ground? Are we looking up over the girl's shoulder at the bird? Try a couple different things with this dynamic. No wrong answers. I want you to experiment a little bit, but think about your camera angle and how you can get some different storytelling just from your point of view. All right, we'll pause for a minute and then I'll do one. Alrighty, let's get into it. Okay, so this is a fun challenge, right? So thinking about the composition, I'm thinking about a branch. I want to put this little bird on a branch. So I'm going to go for like a down shot where we're looking down at the floor plane down here. This is the ground. And maybe there's a house over here with some steps or something and a porch. But look at, I'm getting some nice angles from this. This is our tree. I'm going to put the bird. Well, I want to put the girl over here somewhere in the thirds, not too far over. So I'm thinking that she could be here, looking up. And then I'm going to try and let me put the bird over here, so we get that nice diagonal this way. Actually, I'm going to go a little higher with the bird to get him in that thirds area to showcase him more in an appealing way. And I'm going to make him larger, so he's going to be a bigger shape on a branch. Now it's starting to come together, right? You're seeing this branch go off this way, and the angle is that way. Now we're looking down from the bird. The bird is kind of caught up in the moment, maybe doesn't notice the girl. Why is my eraser not working? Oh, I gotta make it more opaque. Okay. Okay. Again, it's better if you did some character design before you start. Let's make it a happy singing bird. Tweet, 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 tweet. And the bird is like throwing around his. There we go. A little fun bird here. Okay. Do a little shadow there. This time there's the texture of the bark a little bit. Yeah, I'm just going to break, that branch is going to go all the way off the frame a little bit. Some leaves maybe. Okay, now we got the girl. I'm going to give her some ponytails. Very traditional looking little girl. And she's looking up. Looks like she's mad. I don't want her to be mad. She's going to be, aww, pretty little birdie. Just kind of, I'm thinking about like her pose is having a little bit of storytelling to it. She's pointing up at it. She's excited to see the little birdie. I'm going to open the mouth a little bit like, oh, like a gasp or something. Now, this is a sketch, very rough. I could refine this, give her more personality and push it. We'll talk about pushing your poses later. And so those are the main two elements, is her looking up at the bird. There's grass. She's in a little grassy area. And I'd have to really think about what's behind them. For now, let's just make it about the grass plane. Maybe the house is up here and points into him a little bit. Stairs. She's in the backyard or something. We can work on that later. Okay, so that's one point of view. Let's do one more. Let's go, let's do a low angle with a low, we're just seeing the grass here, a low horizon line, HL, horizon line, and it's kind of skewed a little bit, so that'll give us a dynamic of looking up at the tree. So we're going to taper that shape through the frame. I'm going to put her down here. We're like, she's going to be a little small, but we're looking over her shoulder. We're kind of looking up, so I'm going to draw the curve of her dress, skirt, so we're seeing underneath it a little bit. Ponytails, it's not really the best point of view as I do it now for breaking up the frame or showcasing either one of the characters really. It's a good kind of informational viewpoint to have her looking up at. But look what we're doing here. Even as I draw this, I'm not loving it, because here's our bird. He's kind of small up here singing. There's our branch. This could be a good viewpoint if you had maybe another character like a cat coming in. But it's not the best point of view for just the little girl looking up. But I kind of like it if we had a cat character to come in. And if his head was up higher, you'd get some nice directional lines to our showcase character here. So that could be interesting. And then you could balance this off with a little bit of the house or something like that, breaking into the frame. She's overlapping. That creates a little bit more depth. All right, so we did it. We gave it a go here, but hopefully you guys can do your own thing now too, and see what you come up with, okay? Thanks, guys.